achieve the dream.
We pay the cost to be the boss. Invest without loss. Young Boss Media, your coverage get tossed. From lab stabs, videos to tapped in the movies. Invitation across the nation. Young Boss Monica, she know what she facing.
Mr. Wayne Pretlow.
Yes, Monica, Boss Media. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
How are you today?
I am fabulous. A little early. But before we start, I come bearing gifts for you.
Oh, thank you so
This
much.
is care of the cafe out here, Ripley Greer. If you're hungry in the run, go take a look.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I appreciate vegan food.
I thought so. I don't know why I picked that up. It's just an energy.
I take that. I receive it. I do eat a little meat,
Okay.
but I prefer vegetables. I prefer vegan, just a healthy diet.
Right.
But if I go to, I was a vegetarian for about 3-4 years. And when I moved to New York, different Caribbean households invite me over. I'm organizing. You're not gonna eat my food? It's like, oh.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And so I had to pick up certain things, but I always prefer vegetarian, vegan.
The living stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've switched over to more vegan. Yeah, I've switched over to a little bit more vegan stuff. I have clients that are vegan. I've cut out beef the majority of the time.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, cut it out majority of the time. Grabbed up on some fish and some chicken. I can't give up chicken.
I know. Yeah, I thought I'd never be able to give up fish.
Yeah.
But when I see everything that's going on with the oceans,
Yes,
I really
facts.
stayed away from fish.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right.
Thank you.
You're
Shout out
welcome.
Ripley Greer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Wayne.
Yes.
Tell us who you are. You're this actor, coach phenomenon.
Yeah.
I met you. It's funny how we met. I met you through Trina.
Right.
She was putting on an event and you were speaking.
Yep.
And she introduced you as, this is the guy you need to meet.
Right.
And then when we spoke, I was like, he looks familiar.
I get that a lot.
You told me your last name's like Pretlow. Do you know Deshaun?
That's my cousin, who I've never met, by the way.
And so Deshaun is he's the producer at Eminem. He's actually one of the teachers and educational facilitator at Eminem.
Okay.
And I was like, he looks like Deshaun. It's like Pretlow. And so it's funny that y'all have never met, but I love Deshaun. Yeah. And your personalities are so similar.
Is it really?
Yes. Both of y'all clowns. In a good way.
Yeah. That's a Pretlow trait, I must admit.
Reliably, just good people.
Thank you.
Good men, honorable.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So,
I can't wait to meet you, cuz. Right. Maybe, is he going to be at the party?
Listen.
If he's not going to be a Pretlow, Deshaun, come on now.
What I've learned about you Pretlows is y'all go to work and you go home.
Go home.
Yes.
Go home.
And I respect that.
It's funny because I didn't realize this has been me for the longest time. Yeah. If I'm out on the road, the actors like to party and do all of that good stuff. And I do the show, and it's not personal. I just need to re-energize, refuel, especially when you've been around someone for 8 hours, or even if it's a show for 2.5 hours. I've seen enough of you. I love you, but I gotta go home and watch some television or something, just veg,
No, I get it. I tell people, the only reason why you like me and I'm in a good mood is because I can go home.
Yeah.
If I don't get a chance to go home, you're not gonna like me.
Facts. Yeah. So I've been acting for, since I was 16, professionally since I was 16.
Okay.
I've been doing the children's theater and all that stuff from a kid coming up. And I had a mentor, his name is Clay Stevenson. He's also the same mentor for Eric LaSalle, who consequently grew up right across the street from me. Eric LaSalle from ER, and he's directing now Chicago PD, I believe it is.
Where are you from?
Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Excuse me, eyes tearing up with these allergies. My mentor really took me under his wing from 16 to about 21. And I started working at a summer youth program called at the Hartford Stage Company back in the 80s when I graduated from high school. I didn't get in for the first time. And being somewhat of an introvert and a shy kid, something clicked inside of me, and I was determined to get in because his name was Clay Stevenson. This is the go-to man. He'd worked with Howard Rollins. And I remember getting a letter after my audition saying, "We regret to inform you that, you ain't it." I said, Next year, I'm getting it. The next year, something happened within me, and I said, I'm getting in. I prepared, got in, got a role. And he just took me under his wing, and he's brilliant. He was brilliant. He died in 88 of a brain tumor, and miss him dearly. But everything that he taught me from 16 to 21 about how to approach this business, how to approach this craft, and his main thing was find fun in the work.
Find
Fun in the work. And a lot of people say that I'm passionate about acting. When you're passionate about acting, it's something that you want to do all the time, and you will find opportunities to do it. There's a difference between being passionate about the craft and the work versus passionate about the attention. And coming up when I was right, because see, that's personal.
That's real.
That's something personal that you need to speak with a therapist about. Because and I was listening to John Leguizamo's, we were just talking about John Leguizamo. He mentioned his therapist said to him, you seek the approval of people you don't even know by being an actor or a comedian, and that's real. But Clay said, find passion in the work. And, being 17 at the time didn't make any sense. I actually got older, and I was doing regional theater production of Dreamgirls. And coming home during one of the breaks, we ran into him at the gas station. And he said to my mother, "You got a talented son there." He never told me that, ever. I was always seeking his approval, seeking his approval. But for him to say to my mother, "You have a talented son. He has a huge future ahead of him." And I grabbed that. I got his approval, and I said, Clay said, okay, I'm going on. And good off time. And from doing Dreamgirls, I think I was about 26 at the time.
Who were you in Dreamgirls?
I played Marty, the Danny Glover role in the movie. And an agent had seen the show in upstate New York, spoke to another cast member who told me, "This agent is looking for you." And I said, "Okay, what the heck does that mean?" But that's what you aspire to have as an agent. She was a commercial agent. Her name was Eileen Haves, I believe. She asked me in a meeting, "Have you ever thought about doing commercials?"
Okay.
And I said, "Doing commercials? No, I'm a real actor. I don't do commercials." And she said, "I think you should. Here, read this." I read it. She said, "I'm going to refer you to another casting director who was doing on-camera commercial workshops."
What's the difference?
Between commercial and theater?
Right.
Commercial, the product. Theater, you are the character, and you ultimately believe that you are the star. Commercials, The commercial, the product is the star. The product is the star.
You're there to make product.
Right. If it's whatever product it may be, deodorant, toothpaste, mouthwash, on a car, that's the product.
So that goes against the narcissistic need for attention.
Well, the narcissistic side of attention comes in when you're seen on television and all of your, now social media, but back then, my phone was ringing off the hook, and I'd done over 100 commercials.
Oh, wow.
From 89 to about 93, 94, just before moving to New York. So I've done a lot of commercials.
How did she convince you to start taking these commercials?
It was just follow. If you see something that I don't see, I'm going.
You're open.
I'm going to it. You know, we don't see ourselves. We see a perception of ourselves, which is oftentimes may not necessarily be what we're putting out. She saw something in me. I went to do the workshop with, I'm going to give her a shout out, Judy Rosensteel. Judy Rosensteel, for about a month, we worked on how to be a commercial actor, the process of casting, how they do their job, because she was a casting director. From there, she would bring in agents and other casting directors to critique your work.
Okay.
And I'm all about business and presentation.
Right.
I went home, I had just gotten from a friend of mine the first Apple computer.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it was a tower. The screen was probably about this big. And this printer that had dots to pull the paper through. Huh?
What were you doing with it?
I went home and I created business cards and labels. And I came up with a campaign. I'm not going to divulge what the secret is because this is what I teach. And I don't want nobody stealing my information. But I went home and I created business cards and I came in with a presentation. I was the last person that she took into the room, and I thought, God, I must really suck. You know, because there was about maybe 10 people, and it got down to me. And all of the agents ended up working with me. My envelopes were of a certain kind, and presentation, I handed it to them, whereas other people just brought in a picture and gave it to them. I worked with every single casting director, with every single agent, until I ultimately signed with one of the bigger casting commercial agents in New York. You know, and I've done what made me, she asked, she suggested, she recommended strongly that I do it, and I did it for about 5 years.
Okay.
You know, and I've done commercials from, Wendy's was like my biggest one because I've done 7 of them. This was when Dave Thomas was alive.
Okay.
I was the voice of the Sprinkle Spangled Genie. If anybody's of a certain age, it lasted about 4 years. You can Google it on YouTube it. The person gives credit to Dom DeLuise. It was not Dom DeLuise. I corrected him and told him it was me. That's right. And I, you know, gave him all the information to prove that it was me. Being an actor from that point, then moved into doing regional theater, musicals, although I started out primarily doing drama. Okay. But once people found out I could sing in this business, it's like, you can sing. Thank you. You can look me up on Rosie O'Donnell if you want, just but I started singing, and the commercials started to wane, and I started doing more musical theater. And I got cast in the premiere of Whistle Down the Wind, written by Andrew Lloyd Webber, which brought me from Connecticut to New York.
Okay. What year was this?
1996. Okay. 1995, 96, around there. Had an out-of-town tryout in D.C., and it didn't go very well. In fact, we closed in D.C., and there's a lot more to that story. I had a near-death experience while I was there, and, you know, moved back. I was bleeding internally. Wow. And lost 4 pints of blood, and was in a coma for a week.
Were you injured, right?
I went to a rib joint with some of my, and apparently they believe that one of the bones cut me open in 2 places in my stomach. Yeah, it was deep. It was deep. We'll talk about that off camera because that's an experience. Right. I don't think I'm going to be slit open by lettuce. You know. Yeah, but that's it, man. That's it.
So, before you were 16, like, what gave you this passion about acting? Like, who were you as a kid to make you want to become an actor?
It wasn't me. It was my sister. I'll send you the picture.
What's the picture of?
It's of me at about 5 years old with my older sister standing to my right. They were doing a high school production of Hair. And I was a mama's boy, still am. And being shy, they were singing Let the Sun Shine. And I told my mother, I said, can I get up and dance? And it shocked my mother. She said, yeah, you can get up. I started dancing. And back then, this was in the 60s. So I'm doing the camel walk and the James Brown, all that James Brown stuff. And next thing I know, I'm dancing and I start to elevate, or levitate, I should say. And I'm like, why am I being lifted? It was surreal to me as a kid. Next thing I know, I'm on this guy's shoulders. Long story short, my sister told the guy, that's my little brother. He comes down, he gets me. And I start dancing on stage. And it was that, oh, moment. You know. From there, my sister would take pictures. I think I had those, where she would take pictures during major snowstorms. This was when we used to have major snowstorms. Around this time, before global warming.
Snow would just stay.
Right. It was like up to your kneecaps, you know, type of snow. And she went outside and she said, stand in front of the mirror, out the window. Mm-hmm. I'm inside, she's looking at me from outside, in snow. Now, I look sad, and I look sad. Now, look happy, and I look happy. Mm-hmm. Now, she'd take me through all my scenarios. And from there, growing, you know, fast forward, I go into elementary school, and I joined Glee Club. Okay. I've always sung high. FYI, I've always sung high. Even as a kid, I was a soprano. Now I'm a first tenor. No way. Yeah, now I'm not first tenor. Joined Glee Club, and this woman named Eleanor Kurth was a teacher. We thought she was the meanest woman. You know, she had a reputation of being the mean teacher in school. She came to me after a concert, and she says, I need to talk to you after school. And I said, okay. Thought I was in trouble. From there on, she said, I need to talk to your mother. She commenced to tell me I run a children's theater with my partner, Pat Edge, and we want you to audition. I auditioned with her, and several summers. And I just followed the path. You know, wherever the Creator was pulling me, I just followed it.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
It is.
To be able to follow your path at such a young age, and then to have a support system where your mother will put you in these programs, have a big sister that support that. That's awesome.
And a family overall. Yeah. You know, my father, when he was alive, he was very supportive in his own way. Mm-hmm. You know, he'd come to the shows and all this other stuff. But just to have a family that supports the dream, you know, as opposed, I think there's some parents that think they're doing their child a justice by telling them what to do or putting them in things to do, as opposed to finding out what that child gravitates to. Right. And then following the child's lead. Right. You think you're doing God some great service.
It's actually just a daycare.
It's just
the kid off,
facts.
You know.
100%. 100%. Find out what that kid gravitates to. If it's baseball, put them in things. If it's basketball, if it's art, if it's dancing, if it's gymnastics, whatever that is, find out what they want. Don't live vicariously through your kids. Mm-hmm. You know, you've lived your life, and allow them to find their journey and their passion. Correct. You know, and my mother and my father did just that. They found out what I gravitated to. And they said, okay, yeah. You know, and from there, that led to being mentored and having classes paid for by sometimes people I didn't even know. Mm-hmm. They would just sponsor me, you know, because they saw something. Right. So that's that.
They see it. Let me ask you this. Particularly right now, in my generation, there's a lot of depression, anxiety, a lot of mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And I've dealt with my own, and I always go back to, I feel like I was on the wrong path, and I wasn't following God's path. And that was my own internal, my own internal director saying, you're on the wrong path. And so since I really dug into my business and just dug into my art craft and really accepting I'm an artist. Yes. There is no other path for me. I'm not meant to be behind a desk. I'm not meant to be in the with the office, with the window. That's just not me. I'm on the ground. I'm around people. I am an artist. I'm happy. And I haven't dealt with that same depression, anxiety about what am I going to be when I'm this and da. Have you ever experienced that? Do you see that in artists that are following their path and true to themselves?
I'm going to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
And work my way through.
Yes.
I believe that we're seeing mental illness and depression on the rise. It's always been there. Mm-hmm. We were not meant to be controlled.
I agree.
We were meant, if I were to go into the spiritual realm of things, we are created by a creator. So if we're created by a creator, we should be creators.
I agree. So you used to sell insurance?
Actually, no. I worked at an insurance company. I started, after high school, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. And my mother said, you're going to get a job.
That's a good black
No, but verbatim, you ain't going to be sitting around here doing nothing. So I started out, menial job, restaurants, the typical stuff. And found out that I could work at, I'm from Hartford, the insurance capital of the world, And I ended up working at this insurance company. I won't plug them at all. While I was there, I moved through, like I said, 7 years. I've done everything from the receptionist to the blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, I ended up being customer service and a claims processing. Okay. And being, you talk about, depression and all of this stuff. And I experienced that because I wasn't living my dream. I wasn't living my purpose. I think inside you have a clock.
Yes.
And that clock, and I call it a mental GPS system. Mm-hmm. Vision.
Your North Star.
Your North Star. Mm-hmm. And if you are sitting behind the desk working for someone else's dream, someone else's benefit for a paycheck, that's the entrapment. Do we need to work? Yes. But the Constitution talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right. Speak on that.
And happiness does not necessarily mean I should be working for you or anyone else. I should be working for myself. And then they bring this whole thing of a paycheck and all this other stuff in, and the bills, and then you get locked into that.
And then the materials are what makes you happy.
Facts.
When that has nothing to do with it. Facts.
Material things don't make you happy. And having had 3 near-death experiences, and being that dude at 20 some odd years old, that was definitely a hustler. Right. Always out there doing, following what they say the American dream is. Right. Have 3 die 3 times and find out if that's really important, because that's not what I remember when I was on the other side. What I remembered was the lives I touched. And I remember, I'm going to go into this real briefly. I remember saying, am I dead? And hearing a voice that was not male nor female. This comes from the Bible. I am not male nor female. And it sounded like a sci-fi voice. Mm-hmm. The mixture of these 2 voices coming in saying, no, you're not dead. You can't die. You have too many lives to touch. And I said, and I'll get a little emotional when I go into this, I'm not afraid to die because there's no love down there. Mm-hmm. And he said, there's too many people praying for you. And at that point, I started hearing voices of kids that I was working with at the time praying, please don't let him die. Please don't let him die. And coming out of that after a week of a coma. Mm-hmm. Going back for a moment of a break because the show closed, and getting a phone call, you feel good enough to come back and do the show? And I said, yeah, I can come back. Mm-hmm. It was like a week. I wasn't ready to go back. I thought I was. And on that night they closed the show, and one of the producers came up to me. She says, I'm so sorry about this, the show closing. And I said, when you've been where I've been, this is all insignificant.
Right.
And I did a spiritual mental check. And it was no longer about the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Do I have a goal? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I want to meet the pinnacle of success in this business? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But at what cost?
Right. Right.
You know, the Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul?
Yeah.
That means to lose your mind. And we are looking at an administration right now that has everything.
Yeah.
Has everything at their disposal, even before they became that.
Clueless and heartless.
And heartless. And that's how come I was thinking about this on the bus coming over. I am seldom overly impressed with people's success because I don't know what they did to get there. Mm-hmm. And when I say I don't know what they did to get there, I mean the backstabbing, the manipulation, the lying, the stealing, and so on and so forth. Because you're looking at the result. You're not looking at the means to how they got there.
Right. You're not seeing the path.
Not seeing the path. And that's even as an actor. You don't know if somebody slept with someone, or they know someone, or nepotism, or so on and so forth.
That role?
You know, and I can tell you, man, there have been times I'm pounding the pavement. So, but to get back to your question about depression, I think we are in an era right now with social media where it is feeding the narcissistic spirit or that gene. Mm-hmm. We're all narcissists. Mm-hmm. And there is such thing as healthy narcissism, self-worth and value. But when it gets into, and look at me on the side, and look at me, and I've done that too. Yeah. But if you see my IG page, I don't do a lot of that. You know, it makes me uncomfortable to do that. Right. And I don't know if it's because, you know.
It's a part of my marketing strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but you're Young Boss Media. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm working, I'll take pictures. Right. You know, and you see my page. It's like usually collages, and it's all, you know, blue, or green, and pictures with other friends in the cast. And it's not necessarily to say, oh, look at me, but welcome into my world. Right. Let me show you my world.
Very true. Very true. Sometimes I don't even think about taking a picture until it's like I have a down moment. Because like right now, I'm not thinking about taking a picture.
Neither
I'm thinking about this conversation.
Facts.
Let's build.
Facts.
There's a, let's take a picture.
Facts.
You know, versus, you know, those people like, oh, we gotta take a picture. It's like, well, let's actually connect. You know, I don't want to be the person that runs up to a celebrity and takes a picture with them before I actually say, hey, like, yo, can I get an interview? Can I talk to you? Can you mentor me?
Absolutely.
That's the meat of an experience. The picture is just, hey, let's just throw this up.
Yeah, it's a moment in time.
Right.
I'm capturing a moment in time. I think, social media is anything but social.
Talk about that.
It's anything but, it's everything but social. Social is, I was going to, one of my clients' mother passed yesterday. And I'm on the train going into Brooklyn, the A train. And I sit next to this woman who happened to be white, who happened to be from England. And we struck a conversation on a train full of people in their phones and books with plugs in their ears. And I'm talking to this woman, because I lived in Europe for 5 months, you know. And we strike up this conversation, and I found out, because we connected, that we have more in common. Politically, we have a lot in common. Economically, we have a lot in common. Socially, we have a lot in common. But you only know that when you talk to the person that's sitting next to you.
Right, you have a conversation, you open up.
You know, and we're in New York. We're beeline into where we need to go. Get out of my way. And most of the time, I'll push you out of my way. You know, and I get accused of that by friends all that. You talk to anybody. This is the thing. I am an actor. And being an actor, the only way I can act is if I connect with other human beings. Because acting ultimately, there are lines on a page, and the lines on the page build scenes, and the scenes are built with characters, and the characters are built with psychology. That is the baseline of what acting is. Psychology. When we get into psychology, we're getting into the mind or the psychoses of the character. It's not line readings. It's a hard business, facts. I work with clients now that they think, oh, I could be an actor. Like one went from being a model to getting into the acting. And he's like, Bob, I just want to be on a movie. And I said, it'll happen. It'll happen. It's a process. It's a process. Yes, I see you. I know that you see it in here, but there is a process. There are steps to get there, you know. And I cut away. There are people in the industry. We were talking earlier about, you know, casting directors who do workshops, who are ultimately doing pay to play, and actors gravitate and flock to them because they are this. They perceive. What I teach you is, I'm going to get inside of you, and I'm going to show you what your mental GPS system is. And I'm going to show you how to maneuver through this business. You know, casting directors and these workshops, are they good? Some of them are, yes. But you have to know who the predators are.
Well, how do you know? Is there like a Better Business Bureau for centuries?
Not really. I mean, there is and there isn't. You have to follow your instinct and your gut. And not all are created equal. Do they have the connections and so on and so forth? Yes. But there is an element of pay to play which is actually illegal. There's a casting director in LA who was casting for a major television show at a major network, who was doing the workshops. I mean, workshops are not new.
Right.
You know, workshops were going on when I was starting up in the 80s and 90s. It's because of what social media has done, you know, and that it can go out further to the masses now. You know, as opposed to me grabbing 1,000, now you're grabbing a couple of thousand, or sometimes 10, 15, 20, a million people sometimes. Gotcha. You know, how do you know a predator? You got to follow your gut. Okay. You know, and if you're from the street, you use that street smart. Right. And you know BS when you see BS, you know. And people have grabbed my business model as a coach. And how do I know? Because of wording that is being used. And clients association.
Have people actually been in your
no, they
studied under you?
No, but others that have worked with me. And look, it's like I go to Burger King, Five Guys, McDonald's. They don't tell me I can't go boom, boom, boom. Right. It's America. Go wherever you want to go. Absolutely. But you don't take my information with me. But because I got God with me, and he said, touch not my anointing, but to do my prophets no harm, I am the source. And you can repackage and rebrand, but there's a difference, going back to the vegan thing. There's a difference between grabbing a burger full of carbs and fat and chemicals and going down and grabbing vegetables and beans and you know what I mean? One is going to energize you. Yes, one will fill you up. It'll fill you up. But if a narcissist is feeding narcissists, and I go on,
that's dangerous.
Dangerous. Yes. They typically do this a lot, unless they believe there's something to gain. That's how they operate. You know, what's in it for me? If you, I mean, I'm diverging all the way off the question. But it's know thyself. That's what I'm about. If you're an actor, it's about self-work. Acting is about self-work. And you know, I know a lot of celebrity folk, you know, folk I talk with on the phone. And the perception is they buy into what they see on social media. You got to understand that that's them, but that's also their business and their quote unquote brand. I'll tell you why I do not use that word brand. As black folk, using the word brand, we have to trace it back. We got to trace that word back. I wrote a blog on that. Right. Slave branding. You know, slave branding. What makes you a brand? You. Your name. Your DNA.
My natural energy. And that goes back to just being authentic as well.
Most people, a lot of actors.
The Young Boss Media thrives because they know when they get Monica, they know they're getting a certain type of energy, a certain type of power, a certain type of force.
And even a certain type of people that you interview.
Yes.
Because I watch your interviews. You don't interview fluff.
Real. That's real.
You know, it's not fluff.
No.
And it is about people that want to go deeper into the thought process. Right. You know. Your question was about depression and following it. I mentioned, I said, we are created by a creator.
Yes.
So we should be creating.
Yes.
You're not creating when you're in a cubicle, sitting behind an inanimate object, talking to people through email now.
It's regressive.
It's regressive. And the process of that has been scientifically proven to break down our attention span to that of a goldfish. When we used to be able to sit down and watch 3 minutes worth of news, now we're getting sound bites because we don't have the attention span. When we used to be able to sit down and watch a 3-hour movie, with the advent of music videos, with click, 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 that's all affecting the brain. And it's broken us down. So when you are not following your passion, when you are not following your vision, when you are not following your mental GPS system, you slip into the elements of selfishness, which is the byproduct of depression. Because, and I've been depressed, and I can tell you it's been from motivated or spawned from selfishness. My friends, I don't have any friends.
Okay, I got you.
And I'm not living into it's just me, which is bad. That's the negative narcissist side. Yes. Now, see, there's two elements what I teach, and the little dip of what I teach is there's imagination, and then there's corrupt imagination. Imagination is what I say when I'm talking about my clients. Is that when a child has pure imagination. Because they sit down and they can pick up an oatmeal. Mama's, just to keep the child busy, give them an empty a barrel of oatmeal, put the lid on, and a wooden spoon.
That's a drum.
Or a car, or a spaceship. The corrupt imagination comes in when we slip into envy. When we slip into covetousness, when we slip into the elements of looking at what someone else has and wanting that, and being envious of that, but you're not willing to put the work in to do what or the sacrifice. And Lord Jesus, I have sacrificed.
I want that, and also I don't want them to have that either.
Or I don't want to go through what they went through to get it. I want it now. You know, and I think if we, I want it now. If you look back at Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the little girls, I want it now. Selfishness. But what that is saying is, look at what all of these kids possessed and what happened to them as a result of that. And then you have little Charlie who comes up as pure and innocent. He had the least of all of these people.
Right.
All these kids who grew up in some element of privilege. Yet he was the one that was bestowed. Right. And social media is bringing us into an element of if we're not careful, move us into, he's good. He's 100%. Oh, I can hear. It moves us into that element of selfishness. And if we are not careful with the connecting to human beings, not your friends, not your family members.
Right, that's easy.
That's easy. But people you don't know. Striking up a conversation with someone you don't know for 2 or 3 minutes. And you would be amazed. This woman, I learned so much from her on the train.
That's going to be the new currency. You know, everybody worried about like cryptocurrency and all that. Like just being able to communicate is the new currency.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in the future, open your mouth, speak, be willing to be vulnerable, communicate.
Yeah. But authenticity is key as well.
Absolutely.
You know, people think that I'm quiet. I'm not quiet. I only speak when I have something to say. And a lot of times I'm clowning around in between that. Right. You mentioned that earlier, you know. I just like to have fun. I mean, I think, you know, it is written, unless ye be as a child, you should not enter into the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
What does that mean? Most people don't even understand because we don't think beyond the surface. We can quote, but that's like being in school.
Right.
We didn't learn. We just grabbed information and we were able to recite it back to you.
You gotta live it.
Be authentic. And being authentic does mean being vulnerable. And being an actor means I have to be vulnerable.
Yes. Yes. You have to push. You have to dig deeper into yourself.
There's surface acting and there's real depth acting, you know. So yeah. Next question.
Thank you for that.
That was a lot. Well, you know, when we get into this stuff, man, I if I'm allowed to go deeper than surface,
because it's a lot that goes into just answering anything, you know.
Facts.
You know, because you have a life experience, and we're still processing experiences. You know? Whether it was 5 years ago, 1 minute ago, 20 years ago, we're still processing it in our own time. Right. And so I understand sometimes we need to pull from different examples to be able to give the
100%. I mean, you mentioned process. We don't even realize that the computer was created or derived from the mental brain. Processing. And just as much as you can process and download, you could also get viruses. That's right. Depression. That's right. That's right. That's depression. Yes. That is, it's a virus that has to be cleaned. Right. When you work with me, I show you how to do all that stuff. Like I have clients, man, and I know he won't care because you even know, but he was in jail for 5 years, and he was a model. When I met him, he had anger issues, you know, and I took him through a process, and he wanted to do commercials and all this other stuff, and the reason why I decided to work with him when I started ICH was because I looked at his Facebook page, and I thought, he's done this, and he's done that, okay, what's going on? The natural progress for a model, because you're only going to be 25 for so long, or in your 20s, and once you start eking into your 30s, you're getting into rocky ground. The natural progression is you have to move into the acting world.
Do most models know that?
Those that have good representation know that.
Okay.
Those that have vision know that.
That's game right there.
What's that? What's that?
I mean, that's some good information right there.
Oh.
Game,
yeah, I mean, it's
I hear a lot of people talk about they want to be models, but I've never heard that as like you be model for a certain period of time.
You have a shelf life.
To the acting world.
You have a shelf life.
Yes.
You know, if you have good representation, if you have good people around you, I have excellent agents. I have a wonderful God. If you have people around you that will speak the truth to you, because there are those that speak what you want to hear, which is why we see a lot of these dangling carrot companies, because they're telling you what you want to hear to bring you through those doors, because they have to pay rent that's $20,000 a month or whatever it is in New York. And once you break that down, right,
actually empowering,
right, and I'm into empowerment, and I don't. I sat down with clients and I said, you have to do this. But I don't want to do. Oh, you want the glory, but you don't want to do the work.
Yes.
You don't want to do the work. Mm-hmm. And I have a client who just been working with me for 2 months. 2 months. Mm-hmm. And I took him through the process. And we sat down last Saturday. And I said, you have to do da. He said, okay. We sat down. I said, no, you're going to do this. Boom. Mm-hmm. By the time I got back to Jersey, which is a 25-minute bus ride, he was sending me emails with responses.
Copping out?
No. Agents contacting them, yes, we want to work with you, or we've received your file, we'll get back to you in 3 weeks, and da-da-da-da. And they're still coming in.
Oh, from the advice that you gave him. Gotcha.
Yeah. I have one that now, we sat down a couple of years ago, and I said, the way, how do you know the predators, you ask me? If they're telling you what you want to hear, the main thing is TV. When I was not doing commercials, if people didn't see me, I haven't seen you on TV anymore. What you been doing? I was in this state doing this. Just because you don't see me don't mean I ain't doing nothing. I'm working. Yeah. I am an actor. I am a journeyman. Mm-hmm. I journey. So that means a journeyman? Yeah. A journeyman is a person that goes to where the jobs are.
Gotcha.
I travel to.
Gotcha.
I take the journey to work.
Gotcha.
And as actors, that's what we are. We're journeymen. We're self-employed. Mm-hmm. So good economy, bad economy, we know what it means to always be interviewing. Right. If you have a good agent. Mm-hmm. If you know how to lay the ground, plant the seeds is what I call it. Mm-hmm. And they dangle film and TV in front of you as if that's the only thing. They feed on the narcissistic side of your desires, as opposed to the practical desires. Now, a casting director who was once an actor, who gave up acting to become a casting director, who may not have necessarily been successful at that, so now they're doing this, can't tell you what my journey is. I can tell you the process of when I walk from how I prepare for an audition, from when I walk out of the door, what I do, to when I get on the train, what I do, to when I get into the studio, what I do, to what I'm thinking, to how I'm talking. I can teach you that. Mm-hmm. A casting director may not be able to teach you that. They can teach you what happens once you enter the room.
Mm-hmm. And how the casting director is thinking, the process of
right.
Yes.
Right. They can teach you that.
It's valuable, but it's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Yes.
I teach you, because there's some stuff that you're going to go through as an actor that the casting director may not necessarily be able to tell you from the working knowledge of it. Oh, sweet.
How do people become casting directors? Like, is there a school for that, or what's the process of becoming a casting director?
I mean, at my agency, there were not interns, but like office managers that worked with my agent, who then moved into casting. To be honest with you, I don't know. Right,
there's not really...
I mean, you go to a casting office, and if you're in the business and you have or if you've come out of school, mm-hmm. You can intern at casting offices and kind of work your way up. The reality of it is the casting directors go through the same thing that actors go through. Mm-hmm. They're always looking for new things, new projects to work on. Gotcha. Some high profile, some maybe not so much. Mm-hmm. Not all are created equal, mm-hmm. just like not all agents are created equal. Right. that's just the reality of it.
So tell me this, when did you start ICH?
I started ICH in 2009. It was birthed out of an idea when I was doing commercials, where I would sit for literally hours with my then business partner and consult people at Howard Johnson's in Connecticut, which is not even there anymore. And we sat there so long that I knew the owner, the waitresses, and I drank my share of coffee. And when I moved to New York in '96, I would audition and I would do shows, and the newbies would come up through the ranks and would ask me a lot of questions. How do you do this and how do you do that? And by that time, I hadn't done nearly as much television, but I had done a lot of commercials and a lot of print work. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do? So I'm sitting and I'm coaching and mentoring and giving advice. And around 2009, I was like, I'm giving away information for free.
Right.
And I mean, I've given away information to friends who would go on and do things, not of any, they would work as a result of I'm giving them information on this casting director or that and so on and so forth. And I decided, let me formulate it, and I met AJ and several others. And AJ's first session, after going through what I called the process, 20 minutes after we left, he called me laughing his butt off. I said, what's going on? You're not going to believe this. My agent just called me with a commercial audition. Now, why is this significant? It's significant because his agent hadn't called him for 2.5 years.
Wow.
2.5 years. And then he's like, I need new headshots. And then things would happen as a result of that.
Yeah.
Some people call it law of attraction. Law of attraction ain't new. We got the Bible, the Quran, the Torah.
Correct.
It ain't new.
Correct.
It's just be rebranded, repackaged. How, if you know how to, the formula.
Set intentions.
But it goes a little bit different than that. I mean, it's more than just setting intentions, because I think a lot of, I talked to you about my business model being floating around. It's more than just setting intention. That's scratching the surface. That's superficial. And if you're shallow and a narcissist, that's all you're able to do, is scratch the surface. Because you're using it as a method of income. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information. But I'm not going to give you all of the information, because I need you to come back to this.
Yeah. It's like online, if you sign up for this free ebook.
Right.
And then sign up for this webinar.
Right.
And then at the end of it, buy this program for $3,000. And then get $3,000. And then come to this for $15,000.
Facts.
Like, just help me.
Facts.
Just help me. Either you're going to help or you're not.
Oh, you're not. And I get it. I mean, that's business. But when you buy a car,
I know what I'm buying.
you know what you're buying, you bought it. You know what it does. How many times do you buy that car?
Once.
How many times do you buy that computer?
Once.
How many times do you buy those clothes?
Once. I know what they do.
So when you have somebody saying to you, red flag goes up. I need to find somebody who is going to give me the information. It's going to work. I sit with them once a month, twice a month, every other 3 months. But when I come back to them, I'm getting what I need to take me through the process until I need some more information.
Right.
And that's what ICH is. ICH is, I mean, my clients have said to me, they want the casting directors, they want the agent meetings. I said, you understand. You have to understand that when that happens, that the guests are compensated.
What does that mean?
They're paid to be there.
Gotcha.
I mean, if a teacher comes into a class, they ain't coming for free.
That's right. That's right.
And it's of a certain amount per hour.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, because I've lived other places and I've talked to businessmen outside of the United States, they're very leery about doing business with Americans for one of most reason for that reason.
Okay.
Greed. Business is about greed. In from what I know from this country. You know? And we see it in our administration, who's openly said they're greedy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be as difficult as you perceive it to be. Am I going to charge you? 100%. And I told my clients, I'm resistant to that. Why? Because I've been through it. I've been in this game for 30 years. And as an actor, don't you think I know a little bit of something? And I left the business for 3 years because I was burnt out. From 2006 to 2009. That's when I started ICH.
That's when you came back. Gotcha.
Because I needed to touch base again with reality. Because being in this business, you can have a false sense of reality when you're on television. And that ain't the real world. The real world is when you go home and you waiting for that next audition.
Correct.
You know?
And so you teach people how to, just every process of it, how to get the auditions, how to approach the auditions.
I teach them the business. I teach them the marketing. I teach them the spiritual aspect of what it means to be in this business. You know, the ones that tend to stick around me and are consistent with me are those that have substance and are willing to do the work. When I say willing to do the work, sometimes it's even on a surface level. I have worked with clients that, have you done X, Y, and Z? Oh, yeah, and they give you a bunch of excuses. But now they'll go to someone mightier and whitier who appears to be the great and powerful Oz. But you know what happens with the great powerful Oz? You pull away that curtain, it's like, they show you all of this for a reason. I don't watch movies to be entertained. I watch movies to be informed.
That's right, the information. Yeah.
Because if you understand how to watch a film, I mean, and as an actor, I watch the technique of actors and so on and so forth, and different shows that shoot in New York that I may audition for, because I want to find out what their rhythm is. Because every set has a different rhythm. You know, I've done 5 episodes of The Law and Orders, you know, and it has a rhythm, you know. This is why I love Ripley Greer, man. You like hearing people warm up. Yeah, so, I mean, AJ started working when they do the work, and it seems simplistic because we are taught that it has to be complicated to get what you want. And the Bible says the things that I come up with are very simple. It's really very simple.
It is. The things that are meant for you, once you align yourself with God, it's really simple.
You complicating it, not me. I'm saying do. And one of my friends said, oh, you should say suggest. You shouldn't tell. No, I'm telling you. Let's get away from the PC bullshit.
Right.
I'm telling you, if you do this, it's science. It's a science equation. If you do boom, 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 you're going to get boom.
Right.
Why? Because this is how I've done it. And this is how my friends that I know who came up pre-social media, pre-internet. I mean, I came up with internet when it's like, you know? And it's like, okay, wait. Right, that's it. And you had to get off the phone if somebody else wanted to use the phone.
Pick up on the phone.
Right. You know, and you get this yell, Wayne, I need to use the phone. You know, it's.
That's right.
And people think that you can't learn anything from an actor. Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You can learn a lot. You can learn a lot. You know, I put testimonials up on my ICH Instagram page. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but you can't help me get work. Can I now? Are you sure?
Can I?
Are you 100% sure about that?
That's right.
I'll show you how to network.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
And those are, you're from the generation where these are proven skills. You know, where somebody could, even if they sat in your class and try to take what you have and package it in a social media way, it's not the same.
It's not the same because you're not coming from the source. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody has their experience. You could take that. But if God has said, do da-da-da, right. Somebody else could come along and say, eavesdrop, but you may not necessarily have the same result because the information, the direction was not given to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll benefit monetarily, like, whoo. Right. But karma's a, God is not stupid. I know what's something, they call it the real McCoy, who was a black man, by the way, who created a project, and now that ain't the real McCoy. You know, I think, you know, in this time, I mean, you know, this the We Buy Black company in Atlanta, you know, I dig that. Because, you know, we were speaking earlier just about economically. I think we're in a, I mean, the stock market dropped 500 points the other day. And 800 points a couple of months ago. And being a businessman, this is called show business. I play for 5% of the time. The other 95% of the time, what am I doing? I wish AJ or my other people were here. I'm on the computer. I'm working. And sometimes my work is 5 minutes. And I had a friend, associate of mine, notice how I corrected that. Because you're going to have a lot of people that act like they're your friends. But they really should be in the associate lane. That's right. Don't blur the two. That's right. Don't get it twisted. Right. And I'm talking about people I've, you know, you may know them 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Let a tide change. Yeah.
And my tide had changed. Mm-hmm. That's how I found out who my friends were. When I needed you, oh, you said, oh,
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
When I said, put money in your pocket for years? All right, bet. Cool. And I have not done a lot. I mean, I have friends of mine who've done their IMDb pages, like pages and, you know, of work. My friends that I won Oscars, Tonys. You know, so I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm all that. Right. But I've done something. So a lot of times I've done more than you. Yeah, you've done a lot. And so many times, actors, we network laterally. As opposed to networking vertically. Because they are getting it in over yonder. And that's also why I wanted to do it here. That energy you get, you know. But if your mentor is your friend that's doing the same stuff you're doing,
No, I definitely understand it, because even if somebody wanted to take like Young Boss Media and try to run with it, no, you're not going to get far. Just from my experience, just of how I think, how I network, how we're building this, it's just not going to be the same. So if you want to run with the name, feel free. You want to, like, you're not going to get far. You can have a media company. You can do it for young entrepreneurs, but it's not going to be the same.
Because it is you. An acorn starts out as a seed, but you can, you know, a maple tree can't be an acorn. Oh, I love maple. Right. But you're an oak seed. That's right. You're this, and why are you trying to be this?
When you have your own seed. You have your own. You are from the Creator.
You have your own seed.
Yeah, you have your own seed.
You have your don't see it. I have, it's helping actors become actors in a healthy way, if there is such thing.
Awesome.
But going through the process and not losing your humanity,
Right.
chasing after what you perceive other people's success to be.
Yeah.
Because I posted sometimes on social media beautiful moments captured in time.
Mm-hmm.
At a time when I was going through pure hell.
I know that.
Pure hell.
Mm-hmm.
And finding out that I had to change finding out that my circle had to change based on when I reached out, what happened, versus when they reach out, what happens.
Mm-hmm.
If you reach out to me, you got my ear because I'm a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after years. Even if I meet someone who is I've known for a week.
Yeah.
And
That's
they
not
need to,
always reciprocated.
that's not always reciprocated. And you gotta, and I, at of a certain age, I won't specifically mention my age, but being of a certain age, to come to that realization, to that epiphany, because I work so much, and I work in an artificial world. When you go into rehearsal, when you go on set, that is an artificial world. And then when you do it a lot, you can get twisted, because then you come into the real world where you think people are going to work collaboratively as you do in rehearsal or on set. I mean, if you've been on a film set, the grip does this, first idea does this, the PA does that, and everything works symbiotically.
It's a machine.
It's a machine.
Yeah.
But you don't have that symbiosis when you walk out into the streets. If you did, people would let you pass when you cross the street.
Right.
Cars would stop and let you go. You know what I mean? It's supposed to, get the hell out of the way, all of that nice. But, you don't have the symbiosis in real world. And it took me a minute to realize that. And my little brother said to me, Wayne, you've been doing this so long, Wayne. You forgot what it was. What did he say? You forgot your street smarts. And I grew up in the hood. I speak very well, but I grew up in the hood. You speak so well for a black man. Yeah, but I grew up in the hood, man. In the 70s and 80s, but still the hood nonetheless.
Absolutely. Back when it was there's a certain type, like my father grew up in the 60s and 70s. So that's a certain type of black man that comes from that era. Last of a dying breed.
Oh, okay.
The man that will, defend you, right? Whether he knows you or not. The man that grew up during the civil rights movement, the man that actually had something to, be proud of. Now it's like black men, I hate to say it, but it's like there's so much whining and complaining, and
yeah, justifiably and unjustifiably.
Yeah.
So.
And so, like for me, like I've never heard my father say like I want to be a white man.
Right.
It was just like I'm a black man. That's just who I am. Ain't no changing that. But I see that now, and it's like, well, the self-esteem is like way out of whack.
That's systemic, though.
Yeah, very much.
I would assume that your father grew up with his father.
In Detroit, yeah.
I grew up having my father
Yeah.
and my mother. So, my father was a scientist. My uncle was a chemical geneticist.
Wow.
My father designed aeronautics. He retired. What's they call it? Disability? What you call it? From the military.
Okay.
But just the same.
Yeah.
And then you move into post. When you start rocking into the 80s, the crack era, our family dynamic dwindled down. The father was either dead or in jail. Or the mother was, incarcerated or strung out, or whatever the case may be. So I believe that on some level, that's by design after watching the documentaries I watched on the CIA pumping.
Absolutely. And now it's like, always hear, like, what black people need to do is, what black people need to do is. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. Because now with social media and the desire to just be anything other than yourself, how do you reverse where we are?
Right. You have to almost unplug. You have to go off the grid. Mm-hmm. When you understand things like MK Ultra, mm-hmm. what that Absolutely. Is, if you don't know what it is, research it.
Yeah, that's serious.
That's if intense. You don't know that during World War II, when we won, that the CIA gave identity to over 1,000 of Hitler's generals and scientists. Mm-hmm. When you understand, and this gets into what people call the conspiracy theory. This ain't no conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. It's documented. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look up Operation Paperclip and so on and so forth. So it's the breaking down of our, and I don't understand why it's our ethnicity. I won't call it race because race is human. Mm-hmm. Our ethnic group. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why. Mm-hmm. I do, but that becomes a conspiracy theory. What do we need to do? We need to unplug. We need to stop following the follower. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
We need to become independent thinkers,
yes.
critical thinkers,
yes.
and not think that everything is conspiracy theory without looking into it first. Because I'm rattling your brain with cognitive dissonance because I'm bringing up something that you may not have ever heard of before. Mm-hmm. As opposed to you saying, wait, what is that? Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on. Now if you're going to use your phone, let me Google that. Wow.
Right.
Now is it a theory?
Right.
Now is it a conspiracy?
Right.
No. Because now you have the facts.
Mm-hmm. Right in front of you. We got everything in our pocket. Right
everything, but we do.
Yeah.
I'm live. Look at me, I'm live. I don't get live. I mean, I've tried to do live.
Yeah.
I fumble. And I don't know if I have a problem with being authentic or if I have a problem with it appearing fake. Mm-hmm. Because if you really want to rock with me, don't text me, don't email me, call me.
Yeah.
That's how we get back to the beginning again. Stop texting everybody when they're in the next room. Mm-hmm. Pick up the phone, call them. Copy this. How about you go to Papyrus, pick up a card or some stationery, and write a letter and send it through the mail.
That's right. Oh, that's really throwback.
Because you know what? It takes no time. Yes, it's expedient, but so is McDonald's. Yeah. I can drive through this. That's cheap. Or I can go and sit down in a fine restaurant, and I'm going to plug my favorite restaurant, Houston's, and I can sit down and talk with someone over a great meal.
Absolutely.
When I sit down and I put pen to paper, we got to get back to being old school.
Absolutely. Wayne,
yeah.
You're going on your 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Where do you want to be in the next 10 years?
The next 10 years, oh God. If I say where I want to be in the next 10 years, I'd be divulging too much business.
I hear you.
You understand? ICH is not even at this point because I'm still a working actor, where I want it to be. I will say this. I want to help a lot more actors that want to really be helped and not given.
Handout.
If you want to work,
yeah.
If you want to put the work in, if you want to find the joy in the work, then we can roll. Mm-hmm. If you want me to hand out something to you like I was about to become, it would have been racial, but you could always have edited that out. If you want to come at me like white privilege,
yeah.
then we can't do business.
Right.
I want somebody that is consistent. And somebody's like, oh, this your hustle. No. That other thing, that's the hustle. You don't even understand what the hustle is. Mm-hmm. You don't even understand that you're being hustled. Mm. But because I'm keeping it simple, I've had clients say, oh, that's just so esoteric. Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm. So what do I want to do? I want to help more people. From a professional standpoint, I am going to be seen more consistently on television, you know, more consistently in major roles on television, because that's what's happening, you know. My agent had a conversation with me about 3 weeks ago. I'd auditioned for a major television show that just came out first year. And I've known the casting director for a long time. Like we both had hair. That's how long. Yeah, man. And I auditioned in a role that had substance. You know, and I think people think because I'm jovial that I have no depth. And I am very deep. You know, I think beyond the surface, and I'm not just an actor. You know, I can sit down and have a real serious conversation and not try to pitch myself to you. You know, and he called my agent and said, wow, yeah, I think we need to be moving in this direction with Wayne. You know, and I had a conversation with my agent and said, just so you know, this is where we're moving. I said, yeah, man. Awesome. You know, people look, this is the other thing, you know, I could look at the success of my peers. You know, like I said, I have people that I know won Oscars and Emmys, and, you know, I could look at that, but everyone has a journey. And I remember coming up, my old business partner saying to me, why don't you contact this person? Maybe they could put you on. That's that handout mentality.
Yeah. You know, because everybody tells me to reach out to Oprah. And it's like, for what? For what? I know what work needs to be done. Like, doing the work.
But the thing about it is when you reach out, then it's no longer on your terms. Even Oprah.
Absolutely. I want Oprah to hit me up and be like, hey, I see what you're doing.
Facts.
Media.
Facts.
What can I do with you?
Facts.
Like you
Facts.
get my number.
Absolutely.
You know?
And hunt you down, and you're like,
Right.
how did you find me? You know? Yeah.
Have some coffee.
Girl, I want to mentor you. I see what you're doing.
Exactly.
I see what you're going. I see your vision. Let me mentor you. And not have any ownership. And I'm not going to squash your creativity and your vision. But when you reach out to someone else, and it's not 100% this way, but there's an element of the handout.
Just sprinkle some of that over here so I can hashtag you and at you and all that.
Like you got the magic dust.
That's right.
And this is what I teach is the magic is within you. Yep. The magic is within you. That's what I teach you. Now, they can rebrand and repackage all they want. I got the power.
Wayne, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad this happened. We were supposed to do this last year, man.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. I'm here with Mouse Media. You can reach me on Instagram at ICH_consulting. Also the same thing on Twitter, ICH_consulting. If you want to reach out to me for coaching, mentoring, I have monthly sessions. I have one-on-one sessions. We can sit down and we can talk. You can reach me at ICH_consulting@outlook.com. Talk to you soon.
So this has been another amazing interview with Wayne Pretlow, another edition of Savvy Underdog. He's definitely a savvy underdog in the way that he's navigating the acting world, and he's been doing it for over 30 years. If you are interested in becoming an actor or learning the business and the industry, please do yourself a service and work with this man. He knows what he's talking about, and he's one of the greats. And so you not only deal with the greats, so definitely check out Wayne Pretlow in New York City. Thank you.
We gotta do this here together. It take a team. The cheese is good. We pay the cost to be the boss. Invest without loss. Young boss media, your coverage get tossed. From live stars, videos too. Tapped in the movies, the who's a who. Shows, pros, just do it, Bo knows. Entrepreneurs, plan, see how it grows. Fly magazines, we flip the scene.
Hey, this is Wayne Pretlow with Young Boss Media. Had a great time. Talk to you soon.
Young boss Monica, she know what she facing. The leader of the crew, she know what to do.